Okay, 1996 engined 1994 Evolution Sportster. Done a lot of work to this bike, and it could just be the case that it's just a completely clapped out bike, and it needs a lot of work on it to get it going. Apart from the jets and top end rebuild, also one of the last things before I take it to the shop will be a new fuse box. All this work, all these parts, when the bike does get going, it's going to be a good bike. Just like to repeat that I'm not a car or motorbike auto electrician or mechanic. The only experience I've got is just over the years, just the work I've had to do to keep my cars going. I've done a bit of work to a couple of other bikes, and that's the full extent of it. I used to race mini bikes, and later on I raced for a short time a CR250 in the early 80s, and the mini bikes were the mid 70s. Well, my prior experience was with two-strokes, and that was fairly limited, you know, just pulling off barrels, new pistons, cleaning carburetors, chains, suspension, oil changes. So that's it, let's get on with it. This video is going to be only about taking off the barrels, having a look at the piston rings, maybe measuring the piston ring gap in the barrel if I've got the right feeler gauge, and that's it for this video. I've ordered piston rings. Soon I'll get a gasket set. It's just that it's a couple of days into the new year, 2016, and it's just a bit early to order parts on eBay. So the previous video was there was a lot of carbon on the spark plug, so I pulled the motor down. We saw that there was a lot of loose carbon or unburnt oil on top of the piston and in the head, and the honing marks are gone from the barrel. The barrel's very smooth. So that's the rear cylinder head. You see a lot of carbon, and it's just it's all loose carbon. The front cylinder is a little bit drier. It's got a white patch on the exhaust valve there. This is just a hobby. Of course, I'd rather be riding it around. I suppose I'm playing catch up with motorbike engines, because I had about a 30-year break or more from motorbikes. It's a long story, but we'll get going on this now. Research for a lot of this work on the engine has come from video producers Milk Crate 82 and Shane Connolly. Videos from Milk Crate is Evo engine valve seal repair, and the video Harley Evo engine top end assemble, Evolution engine rebuild. Shane Connolly, the video part 031, how to install piston cylinder trick method on a Harley V-twin, and the other video titled part 04, how to install cylinder head on a Harley V-twin. I always put something down here in case something's dropped down into the big end or onto the crank area. However, there's a guy at work, and he bought a BMW engine, and apparently it had been used as a in an aeroplane, and he had all sorts of trouble with it, and eventually he found out that there was a rag stuffed in amongst the crank, rotating around on the crank, and that was supposed to be used as an aeroplane engine. So the moral of the story, don't rotate the engine while you've got your rag in there. but I can see already that the engine's got to be rotated to bring the piston down further, so that the barrel will clear the frame. So, okay. Okay, well there she is. Got a bit of a wear mark on the back there. I know it's better quality when it's when the camera's held a bit further out. Okay, the front cylinder. That's not looking too good. I've got to say, that's. I did clean the top of the piston, but I can see score marks there, and it's well and truly carboned up on the actual piston. If you compare it to the rear one, then it's not looking too healthy at all. The front seems to have a bit more play than the rear. I think it's pretty close. I've got my barrels marked front and rear. Yeah, this here has got sort of flaked on, looks like engine oil. I can just sort of peel it off, you can see there. Viewers, you are not going to believe this. Have a look at that. A smashed ring. Always follow your instincts. Always follow your instincts. Now, why do I get the feeling that the previous owner has just absolutely smashed this engine? So then, of course, the oil ring is probably completely clapped out too. When you abuse an engine, somebody's got to pick up the pieces. Somebody somewhere. So I'm getting the top oil ring. I'm just working it up into the next groove, then the next groove, then out. So just put one side in. They're only thin, small rings. Okay, so I've got that oil ring up the top groove. When I press the oil ring in, it sits in behind the piston circumference, so either it's worn or it's supposed to be like that. I'm not really sure at this stage, but I will find out eventually. One side of it's smooth, and one side of it, I think the underneath has got those slots. Okay, the top oil ring's off. Surprisingly, when the engine was running, both the front and rear cylinder pistons were coated in the same amount of oil. The front cylinder's the one with the broken piston ring. The front cylinder's the driest with the less amount of oil. And this engine had a perfect compression reading of 150 psi, wet and dry. Okay, so it came out with the oil ring, the ends of it pointing down. Okay, where's the end of that? Just there. Okay, I'll wind him out. Okay, so the markings on this piston, that's how it came out, and the markings are actually on the top with this oil ring. The markings are on the top with this one. They, I don't know if they show up on camera, but they go that way across the ring. The other side's smooth. When the new rings arrive, I'll read out the instructions and let you know how to install them. Okay, front second piston ring. Okay, with this one, that's how it came out. There's no marks on the top, and there's no marks underneath. I can't see a beveled edge anywhere. That's the front of it there, and it seems it looks rectangle. That's the top oil, and the markings are on the underneath of the oil ring. I'm assuming these are original Harley rings. again with the ends pointing down. Yeah, the cross hatches are pointing up with the bottom oil ring. That's the top. I've got the front cylinder, I've got the unbroken ring, and that gap is 0.013 or 0.33 millimeters. 0.013 or 0.33 millimeters. And to get that lined up, I've lined it up with the brass at the top. You may be able to see the hone marks at the bottom of the barrel there. The barrel itself is completely smooth, but the hone marks are on the bottom of the barrel. The rear barrel ring gap is also 0.013, 0.33 millimeters. The broken piston ring was on the front. Okay, tomorrow after doing what I've got to do, I'll clean up the pistons, see what we got, and that'll be the next video. But of course there's more to it than just ring gap, there's also ring tension. Just for the record, with the compression test, that was 145 psi in the front cylinder and 150 in the rear. So the broken ring was in the front cylinder and that was 145 compared to the rear cylinder 150.